Welcome everyone. This is our Bot Games Season of Giving Edition live stream. Super excited to be celebrating this season with a special Bot Games Season of Giving Edition in partnership with United Way Bay Area. I'm also super excited to be joined by co-founder Needy Shukla. Needy, do you want to do a quick introduction for our developer audience, as if they don't know you already?
Oh no, I'm so excited to be here. I think we are all passionate about technology, but when technology can do something good along with doing something smart, I think it makes us all very excited. So I'm just really happy to be here. I have worked in technology for many years, just like several of you, and I can't wait to see what the season of giving is going to do for bot games.
Yeah, this is excellent. And so Needy's team has been running our social impact organization at Automation Anywhere, and it's been a huge success. And they're also responsible for this excellent partnership that we have with United Way Bay Area. I wanted Needy to join for a little bit just to tell us a little bit about the mission and the vision of the SIO organization here at Automation Anywhere.
So the social impact organization was put together with two or three main focus areas at Automation Anywhere. We wanted to look at our technology and what we bring to the world at large and see how we can do good with it. So one of the big areas of focus for us is to bring technology, like how corporations use it, to increase efficiency and productivity and use intelligent automation and artificial intelligence for the next wave of what is possible. We bring that technology similarly to nonprofits. And this collaboration with United Way for the Bot Challenge was exactly that, to see how we could help nonprofits use automation to do more with less resources, less, I know all of us know this, but there's so much work that needs to be done socially, whether it's to aid veterans or to help people who are left behind because they're marginalized segments of society, or whether they're refugees. And if we can help these nonprofits do more utilizing technology, we're all better off as a society. So that's a big pillar for us. The second pillar that we concentrate on is to help reskill and upskill folks as jobs change, as future of work kind of morphs some of our jobs, of course. But it's also an opportunity to really make jobs of tech more accessible and inclusive. So it bridges the wealth gap, but more importantly, also trains this new set of artificial intelligence that we're all training with people from all walks of life, so that the solutions that come out of it are more accessible and more inclusive. So those are two big focus areas. And the third is how Team Anywhere shows up for community involvement, whether it's through bot games and our challenge here, whether it's through our employees giving back. We've donated over 400 volunteer hours just in the last 3 weeks at Automation Anywhere. And things like this, that we can all come together and be part of the Give Back program.
That's great. Yeah, and as much as automation is important for organizations to streamline and go through their digital transformation process, it's also important for nonprofit organizations, right? They're largely dependent on volunteers at times and have very slim budgets. And so automation capabilities in their hands can go much further than I think a lot of us would initially think. Talk to me a little bit about some of the impact that the SIO organization has had for some of the teams and organizations that you've been working with. I know you've worked with some training resources and other organizations. So talk a little bit about that.
The Impact Office, I think, has one of the best jobs because we get inspired every day. So it's really exciting for us to see. I'll give you one example. We used our technology to help a nonprofit aid agency to help the aid requests that they take in from refugees, whether they are war refugees or climate refugees and so forth. And they were able to monitor that they could take in 400% of more requests using the same resources that they had before in any time frame. This not only obviously impacted the refugees on the ground because they could take the aid request that much more, but with the same number of resources, this organization could then take it a step further and open 12 new centers on the ground, and then reach those refugees a little bit faster, easier, etc. We see this kind of cost savings or opportunities that the corporate world creates by using technology. But when you see it on the ground and you hear from the refugees directly to say, hey, I was so happy that I could get the aid in a day versus a week, or my child got diapers that much faster. The use of technology could not be more important, in my opinion. So we get to see a lot of these kind of examples come out our way. This particular bot games challenge was with that same intent. With United Way, we were able to take a very simple process of, whether it's aid disbursement or T-shirt disbursement. In the times of crisis, they have to kind of increase their capacity literally overnight, or even sometimes in an hour, in order to meet the demand. And technology can be a great way to help them do so. And likewise, in the reskilling efforts, we've helped reskill and upskill folks to have technology jobs, whether they are, again, refugees coming out of a particular country, going to another country, where there's a language barrier. And thankfully, technology has its own language. And somehow these refugees are able to upskill themselves. They're just so motivated, and they have to get a job, and they're able to figure out a way to train themselves, and with our help, of course, and the organizations we work with on the ground, without whom this would not be possible, and get that job for their families. Likewise, we've helped train women in Africa. We've trained farmers' kids getting out of the farming community for the first time in their lives and are lost because they don't have that support structure, and they're trying something new. We've done similarly in the US, where parts of the area, for example, Mississippi Delta, where, again, people live below the poverty line. Can't believe it. But that's, we can uplift communities with education and upskilling and reskilling. And our social partners on the ground across the globe are just absolutely fantastic because they make it happen. But our job is to enable them to take that one step forward and train on jobs of the future versus just what's available or what somebody doesn't want.
That's excellent. I love that. And it's, I think, meaningful for myself and the other people who are on this live stream to be a part of an organization that does care so much about giving back and investing in underprivileged regions and individuals. So this is excellent. And our Bot Games Season of Giving Edition Challenge was based roughly on one of the solutions that Automation Anywhere has provided for another organization previously. So we try to make these realistic of the kinds of issues that organizations, and in this case, nonprofits, face day to day. So Neeti, thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. And thank you for leading with such a great mission for us as an organization.
No, I love it. Best of luck to everybody who played, of course. I challenge you to take it forward, go give back to a nonprofit, maybe build them a bot or two. And I'm super excited about this. And of course, our team. Thank you so much for making it all a reality and to make it happen.
Very cool. Thank you, Neeti. I want to welcome Kate, who has been with us on all of our live streams and has been going through our bot camp. Kate,
Hey,
welcome.
good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Kate, you did Bot Games Season of Giving Edition on the heels of going through bot camp. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I can definitely say that Bot Camp completely prepared me for tackling bot games. In fact, there were a couple moments while I was trying to build my automation for bot games where I had to go back and reference some of the homework just because I couldn't quite remember the exact thing to do. So having those references available was super handy. I definitely needed them when I kept getting errors along the way, but it was pretty simple to solve once I looked at my resources that I had.
That's great. And Kate, you solved yours like on hard mode too, because you were on a plane while you were doing it. I want you to share, if we can share the link in the chat so everyone can see this. Kate solved hers while she was flying to San Jose. So that's like doing it on a plane Wi-Fi is an extra challenge for your
without a
bot
mouse.
games
Like
challenge.
dragging and dropping is not as easy as people think without a mouse.
That's right.
Yeah. I really had hoped that like the whole plane would be clapping for me at the end when I had like a successful bot run. But no, nobody knew. I had my earphones in and
You brought them to tears.
I wish.
Well, so Kate, you mentioned something I think really important, and this is why we're such sticklers for the way that we name and organize the automations that we take people through in Bot Camp, but also the AAU training that we offer. And that's so that you do have this library of referenceable assets that you can go back to. So if you need help on how do I do a loop or how do I work with an Excel spreadsheet, the idea is that as you've gone through all of this training, you have these small exercise files or automations that you've built that you can then refer back to and you can use kind of as a cheat sheet like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Kate, I want to also extend this. You didn't actually ask any questions to solve this problem. You were able to solve it all on your own. I do want to extend to everyone else who is in our live stream. If you have questions or comments or concerns, I want to hear your feedback about the Bot Game Season of Giving Edition Challenge. I know it wasn't the hardest challenge that we've ever done for bot games, but for a lot of people who are coming on the heels of our bot camp, this was an appropriate level of difficulty as they start to transition from guided automation builds to starting to solve problems on their own using the capabilities and skills that they've learned. Any specific gotchas, Kate, that you would call out?
The read write on the Excel, I had it on read write and I needed it to be just read, I think, at one point, read only.
Okay.
That was one thing that got me. I think I needed that. You're asking me questions.
I asked you on the spot.
I did a couple days ago, and now I'm not quite remembering. Also, there was something about the referencing of where I saved my file that did not go right the first time. But again, looked back at my resources and was able to figure it out pretty easily.
Very cool. I know that for our international friends, it got a little bit more complicated because we had some date adjustments that had to be made, and we'll talk some about that here in a little bit. They got a little extra challenge than you did. So, Kate, thank you so much for solving this challenge. Thank you for sharing your video of solving it on a plane. Nothing feels weirder than videotaping yourself while you're flying across the country. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for your transparency as you've gone through this process of learning. It's great to see that you've been able to pick up new skills. You've been challenged and you've been able to solve this particular challenge.
It's been a lot of fun. I'm definitely learning.
Cool. Thank you so much. Right. So I want to transition now to doing some community shout outs. And I'm going to ask Allison to join me. And we've got a screen share up with some community shout outs that we did. Allison, good morning. Allison, you might be on mute. Allison did the right thing.
I'm back.
There you go. There she is.
I was due for one blooper in this experience.
There you go.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. Allison Abel, Community Director. Be ready. We have a lot of shout outs today. First up, I want to celebrate success, Bot Camp. It's been an exciting few weeks. I've loved having my LinkedIn spammed with all of these great accomplishments, all of this great cert sharing. I do want to share a few special shout outs today. Suzanne, one of our own team members, just completed the career quest as well, and had a great discussion with our MVPs about this experience and how something like this can create a snowball effect. I really highly encourage you to check out her post on LinkedIn and the conversation that was had. There's some great power there. Helen added her success to her cert section. I thought that was a great idea. If you haven't done that, celebrate your success, add it to your certifications, promote that, share that. This is a professional accomplishment and very much worthy of the share. So congratulations, Helen. thank you as well, Syed and Shand. I really appreciated their contributions. They're pro developers. They have a lot of experience, but what was really interesting is that they found value in this experience as well, going back to the basics. And I think Syed said it great, returning to the fundamentals is the foundation of mastery. And I think about that in my own work, going back to the basics and being refreshed and re-energized and reinvigorated is really important. And then Steven just shared a post. Highly encourage you to check out his post as well. Not only did he share a ton of tips, some great feedback, and we want to encourage you to share your feedback. We want to do more of these. We want to have more camps in the future, and that feedback is super, super helpful for us as we continue to evolve. My last little bit on Bot Camp. We have pulled together a playlist. It is on the homepage of our community in our latest news section. It's also pinned in our Pathfinder Academy forum. It has all of our live sessions, all of our toolkits, and we still have our forum open for questions. So if you're still going through the process, please continue the process. We're here to support you in that journey. If you had success in that process and want to share it with others, share this playlist, get them started. There's so much value in here. And again, we are your partners in the success, so don't hesitate to reach out to us in that forum. All right, moving right along, we're going to go to our next round of shout outs, which is bot games. This again has also been super exciting. I always love following along on LinkedIn and seeing the times, and I've just been amazed by the times and accomplishments that everyone's had. A few call outs, bot games wide. Syed again, connecting bot camp and bot games. As we heard from Kate, our bot camp really set you up for success to accomplish this challenge. So thank you for highlighting that. Mark has been amazing in our community. He's always willing to lend a helping hand. He even developed his own solution tutorial, so be sure to check that out as well. Thank you, Mark, for always being a partner and collaborator in this. Aditi, I wanted to highlight her. What I love about bot games is you'll try it the first time, you'll get it, and then you want to compete with yourself and get a better and better time. So bot games is always open. Go back, try again, see if you can increase or decrease your time. You don't want to increase your time in this case, but decrease your time. We highly encourage multiple attempts. Try, and try again. All right, let's go to the next slide. A few other highlights. Jeremiah has made this a family affair. I've been loving following along. He challenged his son to jump in and try the challenge too. Roshan was really excited to contribute in a meaningful way. And I can't express my excitement as well, having the opportunity to connect with the United Way and give back and have some true human impact in here as well. And then Brandon, congratulations on your first bot games. We're excited to have you, and we're excited to hear that you're interested in more challenges in the future too. So those are the shout outs we have for today, but I will say it was very hard to choose these shout outs. There's been some amazing things shared on LinkedIn, so please continue to share your great successes, your feedback, your celebration, and again, happy holiday season to all of you, and happy new year as well. Micah, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Yeah, and I think an important call out here, we had shouted out Suzanne. Obviously, Kate from our team is doing this as well. Even though we work at an automation company, not everyone has a ton of experience building automations. And so this was a great kind of forcing function or exercise for even our own team to say, hey, we're going to go through some of this stuff and we will be kind of customer zero for a lot of this training to see how well it connects. And if people who don't have experience doing any kind of development are able to learn and able to solve these challenges. So this has been great. I think it's been great momentum for our team to get hands-on with Automation Anywhere in a new way and learn to really be actionable with our platform. So super excited for that. And like Allison mentioned, we do have that toolkit available. So if you want to take your team through this, you do have that as an option. And so if you go to our community forum, we've got the Bot Camp toolkits and live session playlist that Allison has put together. And this is a great way to take your team through that. If you want to go through it with your team at a later date, these are available on demand. It doesn't have to be done like right leading up to Christmas, but you can take your team through that. And it's a great way to start a new conversation about the art of the possible when it comes to automation. So Allison, thank you so much for putting that together. And thanks for doing these community shout outs. I'm going to transition now to Max Cassidy.
Hey,
Max.
Micah. Hey, everyone.
welcome. Some of you may have seen Max from Build-A-Bot, formerly from Build-A-Bot. You may have seen him at Imagine. You may recognize his voice if you've gone through any of the Pathfinder, what did we call it? The skill booster for generative AI.
That's the one, yep.
Those are all Max things. So Max is joining me today to go through, and he's going to lead us through this solution tutorial here shortly. Max, any gotchas? I mean, I know you have some experience building automations, so this probably wasn't terribly tricky for you, but any weird things that came up when putting together your practice rounds for this build?
So I wouldn't really say weird, but what I'd say is you've got to keep that keen eye. One of the requirements for this challenge was that the date format had to be month, day, year. Now, if you come from my side of the pond, right? You'll know that it's day, month, year, which is a little bit different. So when we're looking into that and good old standard settings when it comes into Excel, it automatically changes it over from the data set. So always be cautious of them tiny little intricacies that come into any automation. We've got to make sure that we're managing them not just from a setting point of view, but also from an automation point of view. The validation in place to make sure that that date format is exactly how it should be. But besides that, I had a lot of fun with this challenge, and you can definitely see the kind of the wealth that it can bring to these organizations.
Very cool. Yeah, we I guess unintentionally made it a little harder for people using international date formats, but I'm glad that you were able to figure that out, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to walk us through some of that as we go through the solution tutorial here shortly.
100%. I've got it all ready to build along, so I hope everybody's ready to get stuck in.
All right, cool. Well, let's transition now to you leading us through this build. And for anyone else in the chat, if you have questions or comments or things you want to know about BotCamp and also about bot games, please let us know in the chat. I'll be trying to answer some questions as Max goes through and does his build.
Perfect. Here we go.
All right.
Okay, so let's jump into the Humanitarian Response Challenge. So for this, I am going to be using the Community Edition. If you are using the Enterprise Edition, that will work perfectly fine as well. So I'm just going to log in here. And then from here, I'm going to go straight to create a bot. I'm going to name this bot the Humanitarian Challenge. And then that takes us straight to our workbench. Now, just before we get started, I'm going to take a quick look at the Humanitarian Response Challenge that we're going to be doing today. So we're going to begin by downloading our spreadsheet, and this is what holds our data. With this data, we're going to use this to populate the recipient details, inputting the data into all of these fields here, selecting an option from the drop-down, and then selecting one of the corresponding radio buttons, depending on the clothing size that's fit within the data. Also remember, the date of birth that it's asking for here is month, day, and year. I would recommend everybody that is outside of the US to check your spreadsheet when you download it. Depending on where you're at, it could change the way that this date is given to you, depending on the settings. So that's something to just keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to leave this page open to give me quick access to the links that we're going to need. And I'm going to go back to our workbench. So the first step in creating the Humanitarian Response Challenge is to open up the website, download that data set, and then access the data. So to make sure that my automation is structured, I'm going to use a step. If I select step and drag this into here, I'm going to call this step open browser and access data, as the actions that we're going to put inside of this are going to do just that. So I'm going to move over to a flow view now, but don't worry if you prefer to develop in list. So the first step is to open up our website. So in the actions pane, I'm just going to type in browser. Now before I drag my open action from browser, I'm going to go over to this Humanitarian Response Challenge page, and I'm just going to copy this URL. Now I'm back at my workbench, I'm going to select open, and I'm just going to drag this inside of my step. Now I want to make sure that regardless of the system that I execute this automation on, it's always going to use Google Chrome. So in the parameters on that right hand side, we're just going to select the drop down on browser and change default browser to Google Chrome. Don't worry if you're using any of the other browsers for this. Google Chrome is just my preference. In the link to open, I'm going to paste the Humanitarian Response Challenge and then press save. Now the next step is we want to download that file. Now the way that we're going to be building this automation today, it may be different to the way that you've built this previously. There are countless of ways on how we can actually develop this automation. But with regards to this, I'm just showing you a few best practice techniques. So rather than manually pressing on the download button here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click, I'm just going to press copy link address. And that will give us the direct download link. Now in these browser actions that we've got on the left hand side, you'll see that we have the action called download file. I'm going to select download file and I'm just going to put this underneath our browser open. Now the URL of the file is that URL that we have just copied. So I'm going to paste that directly into here. And then we can decide where we want to save it. So I'm going to press browse. Now what I've done is I've got my structured humanitarian response folder here. So I manually created this. Inside here I have the assets and I've previously downloaded the humanitarian response challenge manually just so that I could take a look at that data set. I'll show you all what that data set looks like. From here, I'm just going to press this and I'm going to press open. And now we're going to make sure that that download is saved to that location. Now I would also recommend pressing the overwrite existing file button. By pressing this, we can make sure then that we're always using the most up-to-date data. Now the next step is we're going to use Excel Basic to open up that data set that we have just downloaded. Now before we do that, I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to show you this data set. So here is the data set that we're going to be using. We have all of these columns that all have headers that we can use to identify the data that we want to work with. We can see here that the data is all in a structured format, meeting all of the conditions that we need. So I'm just going to close this off now. Okay, so the next step is let's open up our data. So I'm going to type in open in the actions pane. Now, because I don't need to interact with this data from an application perspective, I don't need to have Excel open. So I'm going to use Excel Basic for this. Just going to drag Excel Basic underneath my download file option. And then from here, I'm going to point it to the file that I'm going to be downloading. So I'm just going to press desktop file and browse. I'm going to go to my humanitarian response page and I'm going to select the humanitarian response challenge. Now our data does contain headers, so we want to select the sheet contains a header option so we can use these to identify the data we want to use. And then for our Excel session, I'm going to select local session and in here I'm just going to enter default so that it links up with our other Excel Basic actions. From here, I'm going to press save. Perfect. So at this point then, we're opening up our challenge page, we're downloading that data, and then we're opening up that data in the backend to make it accessible for us. Now this is a perfect point to run your automation. So if you have that humanitarian response challenge page already open, or that data set, let's close it off at this point and press run. What this will then do is open up our challenge page in a new window, and then we can start getting ready to interact with it. It will also make sure that there's no issue with did download, and it will ensure that we've got the most up-to-date data set. Perfect. So our bot has run successfully. So the next step then is to start interacting with this web page. In the actions pane on the left hand side, we're going to begin by structuring our automation with another step. Now this step is to loop and insert data. So now I know inside here, this is what's going to be in charge of processing our data. So my first step is I want to initiate a loop. I'm going to select loop, drag this loop action. I'm just going to place it inside my new step. Now, in the parameters on the right hand side, we want to state what it is that we're going to loop through. So I'm going to select loop. I'm going to enter Excel, which makes the list a little bit shorter. And then I'm going to select Excel Basic. Now from this, we want to loop through all the rows, and our session name of default matches our Excel Basic open action, so no changes needed there. But underneath, we do need to assign the current value to a variable. So for this, we're just going to press that X that's encapsulated in brackets. We can see here that we have the name of Excel row. Now this worked perfect because we know then that this data is the current active row in our Excel dataset. But what I am going to do is at the start of this name is just put a lowercase r, and this just means it's easily identifiable as a record variable within the variables tab. From here, I'm going to press create and select. Perfect, and then save. So now that this is going to loop through and give us our data, we can start interacting with our web page. So in the actions pane on the left, I'm going to type in recorder. We'll expand that recorder action, select capture, and I'm going to drag this inside my loop. From here, I'm going to select application in the parameters on the right hand side, and I'm just going to press that circular arrow to refresh the windows. This just allows the bot agent to detect what applications we have available to work with. Now in the choose an application window, I'm going to select the option of Humanitarian Response Challenge. Then from here, I'm going to select Capture Object. This will open up our Humanitarian Response Challenge page. Now the first step, the first input box that we've got is first name. So I'm going to click on first name. And now we want to state what we want our automation to do. So that is, we want it to set text. So on the action to take on object dropdown, I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to press the option of set text. Now the text that we want to use is the text that's located inside our Excel file that we downloaded previously. So to access this, I'm just going to press the insert a value button, and on the drop down and choose a variable, I'm selecting Excel row. Now remember, our dataset had them column headers, and luckily for us, these column headers are a perfect fit for the data that's there. So what I mean by that is, I know that the record, the header for the datasets that's holding the first names is literally just called first name. So because it has a column header of first name, I'm going to enter first name and then press yes, insert. Just like that. And then save. So now that that's saved, we're going to be using a few more recorder actions. So for this, you could record a sequence of steps using the start recording option at the top. You could manually keep adding the capture option. And another option is to press the three dots next to the action that we've just configured. Press copy action. And if we press the three dots again, we can press paste after action. Doing this means that the window is already selected. And because we're using the same application, all we need to do now is press recapture object. Once we've pressed recapture object, we can now go over last name and click. Now it does keep the same configuration, but because we know the column header for the last name data is just last name, all we need to do in the enter keystrokes input is remove first and enter last. So now we have last name. Alternatively, you can just delete all of this and reselect the variable. But once that's done, press save. Perfect. So now we need to capture the second input box. I'm just going to press them three dots again next to our latest recorder action and press paste after action. From here, I'm going to press recapture object again. And then I'm going to select the email input box. Just like before within the enter keystrokes part, I'm going to delete first name, and I'm going to change this to email, because email is my column header for where it stores the email addresses. And then from here, press save. Now remember, if you're ever unsure on any of these column headers, simply check your dataset. They will all be in there. And once again, I'm going to press these three dots, press paste after action. I'm going to select the recapture object option. And this time we want to capture the city. So just capture the city input box. I'm going to remove the first name from our keystrokes and enter city. From there, I'm going to press save. Now the next step is we want to capture the state. Now this is a different option for us. We're not going to be setting text. We're going to be selecting an option. So I'm still going to press these three dots and I'm going to select paste after action. And then I'm going to press recapture object. And now I'm going to go to select a state. I'll select a state. And now you will see that our original action to take on object has disappeared. And this is because we can't set text into a combo box. So I'm going to select the option here. And I'm going to select the option of select item by text. In the assign value, we're just going to press insert a value. Select our Excel row. And then we want to pull it from the column that is holding our data. So we know this has a column header of state. So I'm just going to enter state. From here, press yes, insert. Awesome. And now press save. Okay. So the next step is we have three separate options. Our customer may have a clothing size of small, medium, or large. So we need to select the correct option dependent on their size and what it says in our data. So to do this, we are going to use if conditions. So in my actions, I'm going to select if, expand the if option, and drag my if condition, placing it just underneath my recorder capture. In the parameters on the right hand side, we want to select our condition. Now this is a string that I am checking. So I'm going to enter string. I'm going to select string condition. Now our source value is the string that we're pulling from our Excel dataset. So for this, I'm going to press insert a value. And on the choose a variable dropdown, once again, I'm going to select Excel row. From here, we want to insert the by name. So the column header for this is clothing size. So I'm just going to enter clothing size. And then press yes, insert. Now we wanted to perform an action or hit the small radio button if our value is equal to S. So we can keep the operator as equals to, and then we'll have the target value as S. From there, we'll press save. Now I also know that I need my if conditions for if it's a medium and if it's a large. So before I go now and create my recorder action for what I want to do for this if condition, I'm going to create the remaining if conditions that I need. So I'm going to select my else if, and I'm going to drag this just to the right of my current if. Once again, on the condition, I'm going to select the drop down, and I'm going to enter string, and select string condition. In my source value, once again, that's going to be the data from our Excel dataset. So I'm select the drop down and I'm going to press Excel row. In the by name, we're going to enter clothing size. And then press yes, insert. This time we want to see if it equals to medium. So the target value is going to be medium. And then from here, we're going to press save. Now, because we only have three options, small, medium, and large, we don't need to add another condition. Instead, we can just select the else action and drag this to the right of our else if. Perfect. Now, because that's an else, we don't need to set up any configuration for that. So now we can jump straight into creating our recorder actions in order to tell our automation what to do when it comes across these sizes. So in the actions pane, I'm going to enter recorder. I'm going to select the recorder dropdown, and I'm just going to drag my capture into my first if statement. From here, I'm going to select the application, select the drop-down on choose an application window, and select the previously selected Humanitarian Response challenge. From here, I'm going to press Capture Object. I'm going to move my cursor just over the small radio button. I say small radio button, the radio button with the small size next to it, and click. From here, the action to take on object is simply just click. That's all we need. From there, press save. So just like before, I'm going to press them 3 dots on my recorder capture that I've just configured. And I'm going to copy this action. I'm going to move over to my else if, press the 3 dots, and then I'm going to select the option of paste inside action. This time, I'm going to select recapture object. And now I'm going to select the radio button that has the M next to it. Perfect. Now there's nothing left to configure on this, so I'm just going to go straight over to my else, press them 3 dots again, and then press paste inside action. From here, I'm going to press recapture object. And now I'm going to select the radio button next to L. Once that's selected, press save. Perfect. So now we have all of our conditions in, ready to be able to manage regardless if it's small, medium, or large in size. So the next part is to add in our date of birth. So we've already searched for our recorder action, so I'm just going to select capture, and I'm going to drag this just underneath all of my if conditions, but make sure it is still inside that loop. From here in the parameters on the right hand side, I'm just going to select the application toggle button, select the drop down on choose an application window, and just like we've done throughout all of this, we're going to select the Humanitarian Response challenge. From here, press capture object, and then we're going to select the date of birth input box. Now I know I said this previously, but please make sure you check the format of how your data is stored within your Excel dataset. Dependent on your location, the format of this could be different. So once you've checked that, we're going to click and capture our date of birth. From here, I'm going to select the option on action to take on object. I'm going to select set text. And in my keystrokes, I'm going to press insert a value, set the drop down, selecting Excel row. And then in the by name, because I know it's got a column header of date of birth, I'm going to enter date of birth. And then press yes, insert. From there, I'll press save. Perfect. So what we've done there now is we've entered all of the data. So now we need our automation to press the add button in order to store our data. So I'm going to press the 3 dots next to our previous recorder action, and I'm just going to press paste after action. With our new recorder action, I'm going to select recapture object. I'm going to move my cursor over the add button, and I'm just going to click. From here, all we want it to do for this button once it's added the data is click it. So our action to take on object is going to be click. And now press save. Awesome. So now the final part of this automation is to press the submit button, but only once all of our data has been processed. So before I set that up, I'm going to use one final step, just to make sure that my automation is structured. And this makes it easier as well for any other developer that needs to come in and work on what it is that you've previously developed. It tells the story of your automation and guides the developers along. For this step, I'm just going to call this submit, because the purpose of this is to just press that submit button. From there, I'm going to type in recorder again in my actions pane, select my capture action and place it into my final step. From here, I'm going to configure this by pressing the application toggle button underneath window, selecting the drop down and selecting our Humanitarian Response challenge page, and then I'm going to press capture object. From here, I'm going to hover my cursor over submit and then click. Finally, let's select what we want our automation to do, and that is click that submit button. So on the action to take on object, we're just going to press click. Awesome. So from here, I'm going to press save. And there we go. So just before we go through and execute our automation, let's have a quick recap. So for this, I'm going to move over to the list view. So we begin by opening and downloading our data. Once we've opened and downloaded our data and the challenge page, we then loop through our data, inserting all of the correct data into the correct fields. Depending on the size we come across, whether it's small, medium or large, our automation, we'll click the correct radio button, and once it's then finished inserting all of the data, it will then press add, continuing back to the start. Once it's then processed all of the data in our data set, it can then go down, come out of the loop and press our submit button. Okay, so before we execute our automation, what I want us to do, move your cursor over Google Chrome and make sure that you do not have the humanitarian page open. Also make sure that your dataset is closed if you've previously opened this. But from here, we're going to press run. We can see here it's downloaded the data, and now it's inserting the correct pieces of data into the corresponding input fields. Now remember, there's multiple ways on how you can build automation. The way that I see it, it's like writing a book. If you have 10 people in the room and you give all of these 10 people an ending of a story, and this story needs to end like this, all 10 people will achieve the same result in regards to the ending that it has. But the start and the middle would be totally different in the way that they achieve that ending. And it's the same with automation. We use the recorder in order to go through them input fields. You could have used keystrokes, tabbing through the fields because it is a structured form. You could use JavaScript package to actually use this to insert the data and fill the form directly. The possibilities are endless. Like I said, you could use the sequence recorder to go through and manually record all of these in one single sequence. From here, I'm just going to press the minimize. We see now your bot has run successfully. So congratulations. Now in that humanitarian challenge page, make sure that you get your certificate. Share this on LinkedIn and make it so everybody knows that you have completed the Humanitarian Response Challenge. But I hope you've managed to find a way and you've managed to complete this successfully. If your automation didn't execute successfully, take a look at the logic I've got here. But if it did, this is where I'll challenge you. Try and get a better time. Have a look at the different methods you can use in order to achieve this. And hey, if you post your certificate on LinkedIn and you achieve a better time, show that off. Show it off that you have managed to even improve what you've done previously. So I hope that you found that helpful, and I hope that you've managed to get this humanitarian challenge executed perfectly. Thank you.